Trading gurus love to say that 80 or 90% of traders fail because it makes them sound honest. Like the serious ones eventually make it. But after working with advanced traders for years, I'm completely sure even that number is pure marketing. My honest estimate is way above 99%. I'm talking 99.7, 99.8%. And when people hear a number like that, they immediately protect themselves with the same thought. Yeah, but most of those people were not serious. Okay, remove them. Remove everybody who downloaded MetaTrader, lost $200 and disappeared 2 weeks later. Only look at the traders who stayed for years. How many of those become consistently profitable? From what I have seen, almost none. And that should be far more uncomfortable than the beginner failure rate. Because with the beginner, the diagnosis is easy. No strategy, too much risk, blah, blah, blah. But after 3-4 years, those excuses are gone. A good month can make a trader think it finally clicked. Then one bad period removes everything again. So effort is surely not the missing piece. And neither is knowledge, which means a lot of these traders already know enough to build something profitable. And then something starts working against them. Something almost impossible to notice because from the outside, it still looks like improvement. They are analyzing, still finding problems, still fixing things. But at some point, the job has changed. And almost nobody notices the moment it happened. I once worked with a trader who could break down our setup for 10 minutes. Structure, multi-time frame, context, why the entry made sense. It was impressive, to be honest. Then an almost identical setup appeared the next week, and he gave me other 10 minutes on why that one had to be skipped. Both were, to be honest, even correct, but the two decisions were completely different, and neither of us could tell you which one belonged to the strategy, because one concept supports the trade, other one gives you a reason to stay out. And the chart always contains something that can make a setup look questionable, especially after a few losses. So the winner gets one explanation, the loss gets other. And there is no fixed process left to judge. Just a very intelligent story told after the trade is already over. This is what more knowledge actually got him. Not a clearer or better decision. More ways to argue with the decision he already made. But he kept studying anyway, because eventually there will be enough information for the right choice to become obvious. It never does. And he could not stop, because learning still feels like progress, while repeating the same decision feels like doing nothing. And doing nothing is unbearable for somebody who has spent years solving things. He wants to find a mistake. Obviously, even when the strategy already had enough behind it, his brain keeps looking for another problem. And eventually it finds one. The first few times this happened to me, I genuinely thought I was improving. I would take a few losses, go back through the charts and notice something. The losing trades all enter slightly too early. So I added a condition. And for a while, the strategy looked better. Then I missed the winner because of the new condition. Now I had another problem to solve. So I adjusted again. And none of these changes felt emotional. This is what makes them dangerous. I wasn't rematch trading. I wasn't randomly breaking rules. I had charts, screenshots, and logical explanations for every single change. But the explanation always arrived after something painful happened. A losing streak made the rules tighter. A missed winner made them looser again. And because I could explain it, I never called it inconsistency. I called it optimization. And later on, I started noticing the same thing in traders who had the same experience as I had back in the day. This is what smart traders do to themselves. They can find a pattern inside almost anything, then build a convincing argument around it. So the strategy keeps getting rewritten by somebody who is genuinely intelligent, using genuinely good reasoning at the worst possible moment. Here's what took me years to see. At the beginning, the same ability is exactly what you need. You need to understand everything. You need to build an edge. But nobody tells the strategy builder that his job is finished. So he stays in the chair. Every time the setup appears, other layer of analysis runs. Does this one look as clean as the backtest? Is the market condition slightly different? And there is always an answer. And the smarter he is, the better the explanation sounds. That was the hardest part for me to admit, because I really liked the explanations. They made me feel like I wasn't just blindly following rules. I was reading the market, adapting, being advanced. But if two identical setups get different decisions because I found a clever reason in the moment, then I will never give enough room for the strategy to play out. And here is the problem. A beginner breaks a rule and knows he broke it. An advanced trader breaks the same rule and calls it distraction. The mistake can survive for years, because every bad decision still sounds like something a professional would say. But if those conditions were not inside the tested strategy, then it doesn't matter how smart it sounds, it still kills the edge. So if using it on the chart keeps destroying the execution, it needs a different job. For a while, I thought the answer was to become less analytical. Stop overthinking, just follow the rules. So I tried. I told myself the setup was already decided and there was nothing left to evaluate. So it lasted around a week. Because the setup would appear and immediately my brain found something interesting. A small difference in structure. Some reason this trade might not be like the others. And the harder I pushed the doubt away, the more important it felt. So I tried limiting it instead. No changes to a strategy during the week, only on Sundays, which kind of worked. Right up until a losing streak arrived on a random Wednesday. And by Sunday, I had a fully built case, 3 screenshots, and the rule that needed ending. So the problem was never how much I was thinking. It was that all of it was landing on an open position. This is when analysis turns into interference, and once I saw it this way, the fix became obvious. The setup is fixed, entry, stop, target, trade management. A limit order at a level I already knew before the candle even gets there. Later on, I even wrote the strategy into an EA. The same flip setup coded exactly as tested. It placed a stop, it plays the order, it plays the target. And it does not ask me what I think about the correct market conditions. That was the point where the analysis finally had nowhere to land. Not suppressed, not scheduled for weekends. Just no longer connected to anything I could touch. And the same brain that used to invent conditions at 2 p.m. start getting problems that actually pay. How to run the same edge across 12 firms instead of one. How to add capital without adding decisions. How to build something outside the chart entirely. Because profitable trading is a very small intellectual job, and that is unbearable for somebody who spent years treating it as the most complicated puzzle in his life. You finally solved it, and the solution asks you to repeat is the same boring thing forever. So the trader manufactures complexity again because his brain needs somewhere to go. And that's why so many knowledgeable traders never survive the boring stage long enough to get paid. They do not only want the money, they want the game to stay interesting. But the market does not pay you for having the smartest thoughts while the trade is open. It pays you for making sure your thought is not required. So I did not become less intelligent. I just stopped pointing it at decisions that were already made. And when the setup appears now, the job is already finished. So yes, almost everybody who tries trading will fail. And plenty of very intelligent traders will fail with them, simply because they had never noticed that the skill which built the edge had finished its job. And if they keep dragging that skill back onto every live trade, the smarter they get, the better the failure will sound.